Okay, I'm going to show you in a few stages how we take a model from AutoCAD through to 3D Studio to a fairly basic rendering. So I'm opening a file here called House T Finished, and open. And this first stage is how you kind of prepare the file for use in 3D Studio. Okay, so here's the building. It's fairly well organized in layers, and at the moment this file is in millimeters. So if I do a distance from say here to here, I get an answer of 29,000 millimeters or thereabouts. So better to work in meters. It gets a bit more controllable, and real world map sizes will kind of behave themselves, and the lighting and a lot of the assets that we use tend to be set in meters as well, and it just feels like the correct way to work. Can't quite put my finger on it, but I think it should be that way. So firstly, what we want to do is dump any invisible information that we don't want to go through to 3D Studio. So use the purge command for this. So purge, and I want to get rid of everything that's unnecessary in the file. So purge nested items, purge all items. Okay, let me close that. Okay, and then I want to scale this down. So at the moment it's in millimeters. If I scale it down by 1,000th of its size, it will be in meters. So we use the scale command, so that's SC and return. I want to scale everything, so just grab the whole lot that's there and return. And the base point 0, 0, 0. Okay, I'm going to turn my object snaps off just in case that throws things. Okay, so set my base point and press return, and then it's saying what's the scale factor to use, and to go from millimeters to meters you use 0.001. So it's 1,000th of its size. That's the model there. There's a tiny dot on the screen. So if I zoom extents, that's a Z return, E return, or double click your middle mouse button, then this model is ready to go out. So you could keep this as an AutoCAD. This is AutoCAD 2012. Okay, my version of 3D Studio is sorry, this is AutoCAD 2013. My version of 3D Studio at the moment I'm using here is 2012, and so taking a 2013 drawing into 2012 doesn't really work very well. So what I'm going to do is save as an older version of AutoCAD. So if I do save as, and I've got a file name ready to go here, so I'll just use it. I've just added 2010 onto the end of it, and I then change the type of AutoCAD drawing to 2010's version. Then click save. Overwrite it. It just happens to be one here already. Yes. Okay, that's me done with AutoCAD. Don't have to bother with that anymore. If I do want to kind of bring any bits that are changed from AutoCAD through to 3D Studio later, then it'd probably be best to do it in this one, in the 2010 one. Okay, because it's the right size then, in the right place. You've got to watch that you don't kind of bring things in and they end up being the wrong scale. So that's the first part done. I've prepared the drawing and got it out of AutoCAD. So I can close the file and close AutoCAD. Okay, and then I'm going to launch 3D Studio. So the right size, ready to go. And the first thing I do is check that my units are the right size. So I go to Customize, Unit Setup. I'm going to use metric meters, and the system unit setup, 1 unit equals 1 meter. And OK, and OK. And now I can import my AutoCAD drawing. So I go to the green letter M, and import, and import. Now the file should be on the desktop, he says optimistically. No, it's not on the desktop, it's on my pen drive. Okay, and it's looking for a file type that I used in a previous tutorial, so I need to change the file type to Legacy AutoCAD. Legacy AutoCAD DWG. Okay, House T Finish 2010, this is the one, yeah, that's the right time, a minute ago. And click Open. I'll merge the objects with the current scene. Okay, it's giving me a few options here. I'd like to unify the normals, which keeps everything kind of facing the same way. And the welding threshold is set at 0.0, so it's a zero tolerance. It won't allow any gaps. Okay, auto smoothing switched off because this model doesn't really have anything curvy in it, so it's a bit pointless having auto smoothing on. Okay, click OK. The model should appear. Right, now this is a wee bit tricky to work with because some of the objects in the scene are white, and if in 3D Studio, when you select an object, it turns white to show you that it's selected. But if you've got white objects there already, then you can't tell which is which. So what we'll do is I'll zoom out in this top viewport. Usually, actually, when the software starts, it's sitting more like this in a 3D view in a single viewport. You need to use this button in the bottom corner, maximize viewport toggle, to show the 4 viewports. Okay, and then the button just above that, what this does is zoom extents in all the viewports simultaneously. Activate the top view, zoom out slightly, so you roll your mouse button backwards, and then I'm going to grab everything that's there. Actually, it's not letting me do that. Okay, now this is usually sitting on all. Okay, this is a filter. It's just because I've been using the software a few minutes ago. I left it sitting on lights. So I've got it set on all. Okay, and I'm going to grab everything now. So you see everything's white now, the way it should be. And we'll go to the Modify panel, and I'm going to change the color of all the objects to a dark blue. Click OK, and then click in the top view, and you can see everything now is dark blue, and it means now that when I select something, I can tell I've picked it because it goes white and it's much more legible. Okay, in a more complex model I might actually pick out a few items and colour them up, so let's just show you that. In here we've got say a stair there. I might make the stair a different colour. Okay, and we've got some concrete walls in here. Might make those a different colour, just to get a bit of differentiation. Okay, and concrete walls at ground level. Right, so that's easy. You can see that you can kind of understand the model a bit easier now, understand what's going on. Okay, so we've got the model in, and we kind of got our heads around the orientation. I'll set this one sitting at a realistic shading setting, and you go, oh, that's not looking too great. Okay, so all this is just the line colours being translated into a material colour. Okay, so what I'm going to do is create a material just to apply to the whole lot. So we just want to pick out the kind of solid from the void. So we'll just go for white paint and glass. So using the materials editor, and remember when you use this you want to be in the compact material editor. Okay, now here's a material ready to go, O2 default. We can use this, and I'm going to change the colour here. It's a bit slightly grey. I'm going to make it white, and OK. And then I'm also going to add a special effect to this, which is called ambient occlusion. It's in the special effects rollout. Ambient occlusion. Okay, and that improves the shadows where objects meet each other, called kind of joining shadows. Okay, we want to select everything in the scene, and you can do that pressing the letter H. Brings up the list of objects in the scene. Let's grab the whole lot. Okay, so using the Shift key you can grab the whole list, and OK. And then we assign the material to the selection. We should see a white model now. Okay, and now we want to pick out the glass objects. So let's use material 03, this 03 default. Before we do that though, we'll rename the white one to white walls, just being a bit more explicit. Okay, this one's going to become glass, so we'll just call it glass. And I'm going to change it from this kind of just a basic color to actually using a proper template that reflects a different kind of shader. So we'll use glass thin geometry. So you drop the arrow down here where it says select template and glass thin geometry. Okay, you can see here the little description, there's no refraction in this glass. It's a bit like normal window glass, it doesn't really twist the light. It's too thin. Okay, and we need to isolate the glass materials, the glass objects from the scene. So using the H key again, we can call up the list of objects. And I've got 2 of them down here, 3D wind glaze, and 1 at the top. So hold your control key, you can get 3D bowl glaze. So balustrade glazing and the window glazing, all 3 selected. Click OK. And then assign the glass to those objects. Okay, so they're the kind of homogeneous materials. We'll break it down a wee bit more in a moment. So now we want to get inside and see what we're looking at, and also get some light into the scene. So let's do the lighting first. I'll just drop back in the top viewport, just roll my mouse back a bit, and then I want to create a lighting system. So we go to create systems, daylight. It's asking if I want to use an exposure control. I do, so click yes, and then we'll place the compass on top of the building. So you click and drag, and we generate a compass symbol. Okay, when we let go of the mouse, it offers us to use the mental ray physical sky, which is a useful thing because it colours the sky depending on the time of day. So click yes to that. Okay, when I pull back, I can see the light symbol floating above the building. If I go closer, you can see it kind of come into view. So around about there will do. It really is just symbolic. It's not an actual kind of torch or anything like that. Okay, let's go to the motion panel, and so we can adjust the angle of the light. So let's see what's happening here. It's coming in very vertical, and we're not going to get much light into the building. It'd be better to have the light coming down, maybe at this angle. So you go to the motion panel, and you can change the time of day. So if we drop back a bit, okay, it's still fairly steep, but then maybe drop back a month or two, maybe drop back another hour. Okay, the light should clear that wall and then start coming into the building now. Bit difficult to tell until you get a camera inside. Okay, so we've got light coming in, we've got glass, we now need the camera. So you go to the create panel, cameras, target camera. Now usually the camera is set around about the 45mm level of field of view, so I'll leave it sitting at, I'm just going to force it to go to 50. And first thing to do, place your camera in the top viewport, so you can decide where you're standing and where you're pointing to. So I'm going to stand near here at the top of the stairs, click and drag, and point towards this window. Okay, and let go. And the camera, unfortunately, is on the ground. It's landed at level 0. So I need to move it upwards. So I get my move tool, and I just want to move the cameras here. I don't want to move anything else. So I can change the filter in the software to just cameras, so it doesn't pick anything else. Okay, got the move tool ready to use. Now if I zoom in close on here, you can see there's a camera object, and there's also a small square there that represents the camera's target. Okay, and then if I click between those two items, it will click both of them at the same time. Okay, you can't see, it's just under the red arrowhead there, but I've got the white target now and the white camera. They're both under my control, so I can use the green arrow on the transform gizmo to lift it up to a more reasonable eye level. Okay, that's it in position. Now I want to see what that camera can see, so I click in the perspective viewport and press the letter C, and I can see now what the camera is able to see. I think I'll change this to wireframe just now, so we get a better view impression of the actual window size and the railings and the walls and things. Now the camera's not able to see very much there. It's a bit too narrow a field of view. So if you just click the camera on its own, you can go to modify, and I can choose a different lens from this collection, or I can just use the slider here. But 28mm should give us a reasonable view. So we click back in the camera viewport, and now we're ready to hit render and see what it can see. So we'll render that. Okay, that was pretty quick. You can see we're getting a fair amount of light coming in through the window. We've got the angle fairly good there. It's fairly light. That's a reflection on the glass. You can see there. But it's not really there's not much light in the room, so we need to bump this up a bit. Okay, and the first thing we'll do is to add a light portal which will help push the light into the room. Now ideally we would put two here, one there and one there, because each of these could then be controlled independently. Okay, but I'm just going to be lazy and put one across the two windows. Okay, and I can see that window shape here. There's the tall window and there's the triple window. So I want to create a light this time, and it'd be easier if I change my filter to lights. Okay, so we get a sky portal, and then you're basically trying to make the sky portal the same size as the window. That would do. And you can see in the plan it's not actually in the right place. It's over here on the back wall. That's level 0 as far as elevations go. So I need to move it into position. So I can do that in the top view. Use my move button, click on the white light and drag that arrow outwards. You can see it moving through the perspective there. And eventually we get it outside the building. Let's just make sure we're clear of any other solid objects. Okay, and this is pointing the wrong way. The arrow is indicating the direction that the light portal is going to work in. So he's trying to push light out of the building instead of into it. So we click on the light portal, go to modify, and I'm going to flip the light flux direction. Okay, the shadow samples are a bit high there. I'm going to put them back to 16 just now, otherwise it'll take a bit too long to render. Okay, let's see how long that one takes to render and see if it's any lighter than the previous one. It should be. Okay, yeah, there's a bit of an improvement there. We can see a lot more happening here, but it's still fairly gloomy. So the next thing to boost the lighting would be maybe to add global illumination. And we do that in the render setup. Go to, it's usually sitting in common. We'll force two-sided just to make sure everything gets rendered. Then go to indirect illumination and find the caustics and global GI rollout, and we can enable global illumination. Let's add some more photons to the mix there. And let's see what happens when we render now. Whoa, big jump. It's pushing the light around a lot more now. And we can see the ambient occlusion showing up here in the edges and the joining parts, but still a bit dark. So with all this white paint, you'd expect things to be a lot lighter. It's picking up the blue from the sky. Okay, that blue tinge is coming from the sky. Okay, so what we can do now is change our camera settings so it allows a bit more light into our camera. So if we go to rendering, environment, and where we've got the mental ray photographic exposure control, we can change this setting. Let's go to 13. Somewhere in the range of sort of 12.5 to 13, 14 works about right. Okay, let's hit render, see what we get this time. Even brighter. Okay, so we've kind of achieved a basic palette, a bright white room. You know, a big shocking amount of light coming in here would bounce around this room quite well and give us the light we've got there. Okay, we're on a draft setting for the rendering. So this, what happens here is if we increase this, we start to get rid of these kind of graininess, and also the quality of the shadow samples on the portal light improves that situation as well. Let's just see if we can show you that. Okay, it's already looking a bit stronger. You see the way that the ambient occlusion looks a wee bit darker. It's working it out a bit more carefully. It's going through it twice. The black shape here is actually a reflection of a balustrade glazing that's behind the camera. So it's kind of bouncing light backwards and forwards until it degrades. Okay, still a bit grainy, but we're just going to run with this. The materials should hide some of that graininess. Okay, I'll stop there because that's basically the lighting setup ready to go. The next stage will be to add materials to the scene, and so we'll do that in the next portion.